morning, everybody.
Morning.
Hi, and this morning we're going to do our next person on our Faithful Hall of Fame in Hebrews 11. And this is Samuel. And Rowan's got a little short version of Samuel's life. I know you've probably seen the cartoon and everything. You're going to hear the Bible reading later from Samuel. I think you're looking at chapter 3 and then maybe chapter 8 as well. But here's a really short version for you of Samuel's life. Here we go.
Samuel's mothers brought him to the temple. The young boy was going to Eli the priest.
What? Oh, let's just sort that out because that's quite an important bit. So the young boy was going to help Eli the priest. Okay, there we go.
One night in bed, Samuel heard a voice called Samuel, Samuel.
So this voice was shouting, Samuel, Samuel, like that.
Samuel ran to Eli. What did you call me? Why did you call me? He asked. I didn't call, Eli said. It must have been God. The boy heard the voice again. Samuel, Samuel. This time he listened carefully to what God told him.
Okay. Let me go a bit more.
When he grew up, Samuel became God's messenger. The Israelites said, "Give us a king." So God sent Samuel to a man called
Saul.
He poured oil on Samuel's head.
On Saul's head.
To show that he was king.
Okay. So he had a really important job, didn't he?
At first, Saul was a good king, but he began to do things that didn't please God. So God sent Samuel to find another king.
And of course, then we find out about King David. So Samuel had such an important job in the life of God's people. But you see, when we first meet Samuel, he's very little. And a lot of people think that he was probably about age 11 or 12 when he heard God speak to him in the night. Now Hannah, Samuel's mum, she had prayed and prayed and prayed for a child, and eventually God had given her a child, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to give my child to the temple back to God, and so that Samuel can serve God." And so Eli the priest looks after Samuel, and you know Samuel's bed, it's actually right next to the ark. And I don't know about you, do you remember, guys, when we went up to Edinburgh and we've been to do some worship events up there, and some of them go up like 24 hours, they go on for 24 hours, so you have to kind of stay there. And there's something really interesting that happens during those night hours. And do you remember we ended up sleeping in the prayer room? Yeah? Okay. And so this was where Samuel slept. He slept in the temple all the time. And we hear this story, and Samuel's living at quite a difficult time. In the Bible it says that at this time it was really rare to hear God's voice. Now that's it's hard to know, but maybe God was speaking, but actually everyone was doing so many naughty things that no one was actually listening. But we know that Samuel followed God. And so he heard his voice, but he didn't recognise it at first. And so he's sleeping at night in bed, like this. Can we do some sleeping? He's sleeping in bed at night, that's it. And then he hears this sound, and he thinks it's Eli that's calling him. And he goes to see Eli and said, "You know, I'm here to listen." Eli says, "It wasn't me." And this happened 3 times. And I find it really interesting that each time it was a really nice voice that Samuel heard. You know, it wasn't like a massive booming voice in his ear to kind of freak him out in the night. It wasn't a huge light in his face. It was so nice that he actually thought it was Eli, and Eli's the person that he's used to being with all the time. But Eli realises that this is God, and Eli sends him back to bed and says, "You need to say to God, I'm listening, I'm listening." And so eventually, after 3 times, Samuel says, "Okay, God, I'm listening." And God tells him something quite amazing. God tells Samuel that Eli's family and all the people who were living at the time have been really, really naughty. That's one way of putting it. Even the priests are ignoring God. These are difficult times. But he says that he's going to do stuff. with that nation, with those people. And it's not going to be very nice, but ultimately he's going to lead Samuel and he's going to lead people back to God. And is that exciting? You look a bit more excited than that. Okay, and probably Samuel was very scared because he heard all this from God. He's thinking, how am I going to tell Eli that? How's he going to tell him? Because it was actually not great news for them, because there was going to be some punishment there. And that was quite hard news for him to say. So do you know what Samuel does? Samuel actually goes and he goes back to bed and he waits till the morning. And rather than going straight to Eli, he actually starts doing some jobs. And I don't know about you, but you know, when you've got something that's really difficult to do you start doing jobs? Just start doing anything just to avoid what you're meant to be doing. So that's what he does. But Eli eventually goes, Samuel, think you got something to tell me? You need to share it with me. It's really important. And so Samuel tells Eli what he's heard. And then, of course, the story moves on as we find out that Samuel actually always hears from God throughout his life as he gets older. So what's really important to remember today is that God speaks to anybody. You don't have to wait till you're older for God to speak to you. If you're younger, God can be speaking to you now. You just need to be listening out to hear his voice. And so we need to be having those conversations and asking children, asking you guys. I asked Daisy. Daisy turned to me last week and she said she'd been chatting with Jesus, didn't you, last week? And I was saying, what kind of things are you chatting about? You know, we don't have to wait till we're older for these things to happen. But also God is going to speak to all of us, all ages. And it just depends if we're listening. And you know, sometimes as adults we don't listen the same way. And we need to just kind of like chill a bit and just give God time and not make it so complicated, and just like a child, kind of just to hear that really calm, clear voice. So keep listening to God. And so to remind us about listening to God, we're going to make a telephone. Okay, now you can decorate your cups. If you've got cups, you can decorate them, or you could use it like this, but we've got 2 cups here. What you need to do is you need to, do you want to have a go? Push the pencil down there like that. That's it, and up. So we've got one hole in there. This is a bit of science for you. We do a bit of science. This is all working on sound waves. Nathan, you're going to explain how that works?
Sound travels in waves.
There we go.
Sound waves, there we go. Lesson over.
When we speak into one, the sound is taken through into the other cup. Okay, so then what we need to do is get some string.
Daisy's going to cut, long on Daisy.
That's it. So you put the string through there like that, and you need to tie it. Tie a little knot so it stays there.
Like that.
Okay, and the next one through there like that.
And I want to talk to somebody.
I'm going to talk to somebody, and you can put like numbers on your cup if you want to. Can I see that? That's great. You've got that going. Just let them get on with it there.
Right, telephone made.
Telephone made. Good. So you can decorate yours. Okay, and then what we need to do is, one of you needs to spread out. Sorry about the state of my house. So that's it. So you spread out. That's it. Here we go.
Okay.
So now you both can't be hearing at the same time. That's a good thing, isn't it? So someone's speaking and someone is actually listening. And remember, you have to be listening and expecting to listen, because you remember in this story, everyone said that, you know, it was hard to hear from God. God didn't speak. And as I said, maybe he did speak. It's just that nobody was actually listening. So here we go. So who's going to speak first? Have you got...
Okay.
Okay.
Pull it tight. You've got to,
Pull it tight.
You have to pull it tight, or else the sound waves don't quite work the same way.
Okay. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Yeah? Brilliant.
Hey, can I whisper
Can
something?
just-
Can I whisper something to Ray? Okay. Shh, let's have it. Let me whisper something to you. What did I say?
I
Close enough. There we go.
Do you want to have a go at speaking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just whisper something to me.
Ready? Oh, right, okay. Go on. So there you go. Have a go at that. You could spread out in your house, see how long you can make your telephone, and we would love to see pictures of your telephones and the things that you're saying. But more important than that, remember that God speaks to everybody. There is not an age cut off, or you're never too old, but there is also never an age as well when you have to get to. The criteria for this is that you literally just need to listen to God and try and follow him, and he will be there for you, and he will keep speaking. And let's write it down. Have paper ready in the middle of the night. Write it down if God says things. Let's ask our children, did you have a dream last night? What do you think it was? What did it say? Let's have those conversations, and let's expect God to speak, and let's share those positive things about what God is saying to us, but also some of those things that maybe are tricky. But God definitely wants to speak, and he wants to help. So I'm going to leave that with you. And again, that line that Eli said to Samuel, go back to bed and say to God, I'm here and I'm listening. And I think that's a really important one for all of us. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. Or as it says in the message, speak, God, I'm ready to listen. Let's be ready to listen this week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.